And welcome back to the channel. Mr. Acolyte here, coming at you with my beginner's guide for Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact. This game just launched, and ever since it did, I have been playing it non-stop. I've really been having a blast, so I decided to make a guide to help others jump into this game and start having fun as well. This guide is going to cover all of the basics of how to play this game, and we even have an advanced section here to help you with some of the more advanced strategies and basically set you on the right path so that you're set up to actually go online and enjoy this game. Because as much as I do like this game, the in-game tutorial is kind of lacking and also a little bit confusing in my opinion, so that's kind of the point of this guide, is to be very easy to understand, and by the time you get to the end of it, you should have a really good understanding of how this game is supposed to be played and what tools you have at your disposal. If you find this guide helpful at all, I would appreciate you leaving a like on the video because it does help me out a whole bunch. Also subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I make a lot of guides for a lot of different fighting games. I do match reviews as well and match videos, all that good stuff. So if you are new here and you want to see more of that stuff, consider subscribing. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right on into the guide. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the basics. The very first topic we're going to cover here is movement. When it comes to movement in this game, it definitely has the exact kind of movement you would expect from a versus game. The very basic movements, your forward to walk forward, back to walk backwards, down to duck, and up to jump, are all standard amongst all fighting games. Now, where things get interesting is when it comes to dashing. This game does have a pretty interesting dash. You can press forward to dash forward and back to dash back. However, that's not the only way to dash in this game. This game also allows you to dash with inputs. If you press any two attack buttons together, you will also get a dash. So if you press light and medium, you can also use that to dash. Just as backlight plus medium will allow you to dash backwards. This is very similar to many other games you might have played that have dash macros. This just has one kind of built into the system. And again, you can use any combination. You can use L and H, you can use M and H, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And if you just like doing forward, you can do that too. Now, the other interesting thing about dashing in this game is it is character specific. Both the distance and speed you travel when you dash are dependent on the character. Somebody like Hisoka as a pretty fast, low recovery dash, whereas a bigger, bulkier character like Razor has a much stubbier, slower dash. Now, as you may expect, this is a versus game, so yes, you can also dash in the air. Just jump and input your preferred style of dash, and you can do an air dash. Again, depending on the character you're using, this will decide how fast your air dash is and how low it can be done to the ground. Some characters can dash very low to the ground, as you see with Hisoka here. While again, using Razor as an example, his dash is just a little bit higher up and definitely slower. And then if we use another example of Morel here, some characters don't have an air dash at all. So some big body types cannot air dash, so keep that in mind. And closing this section out, it wouldn't be a versus game unless you could super jump. Pressing down and up will allow you to do a super jump, and the super jump in this game takes you very high. This is great for either approaching the opponent while jumping over, their projectiles or their assists, or buying yourself some time. And yes, you can still combine this with your air dashes to give you a lot of air freedom, and you have a lot of different options for how you want to move across the screen. Moving on to the next section, let's go ahead and start talking about buttons. Now, you may have heard this game is a big button game. You have 7 buttons in total, but we're going to talk about those one at a time. Let's go ahead and start with just your basic attack buttons. So for your basic attacks, you have 4 main buttons. You have your light, your medium, your heavy, and your Nen button. Those are your basic 4 face buttons. So as you might expect, the L button is your light attack. These are short-ranged, fast attacks that have less recovery and are usually used to, you know, challenge, to try to take your turn back, and basically when you want to outpoke the opponent. M is usually your more ranged attack. These are your mediums. Usually these have more range than a light and have a little bit more recovery, but a lot of mediums in this game tend to move you forward, so these end up being very good poke buttons. And then of course your H, your heavies. As the name implies, these are always going to be your big button. Normally these attacks are pretty huge and cover a lot of range, but will have a lot of recovery, so keep that in mind. And again, the characters in this game are all very, very different. So that's going to be one of the first things when you get on a new character, is really getting a feel for their buttons, because every character in this game plays completely differently and the way their buttons act are completely different. So make a note of that when you first start picking up a new character. And lastly is the N button. This button is going to actually get its own section because there's a lot to it. For now, just think of it as your defense button. That's the role that this plays in this game primarily, but it does a lot and I don't want to like overbloat this section. So we'll get to the N button in a little bit. Next, let's go ahead and talk about special moves. As you may have already heard by now, this game does not have motion inputs. Just like DNF and Grand Blue, this game has the special move button. So in order to do your special moves, you will have to press this button. So let's go ahead and break this button down. So as the name implies, simply by pressing the special move button, you will activate one of your character's special moves. So each character works basically the same way in terms of how you do the special moves, just the effect that you gain from it will be drastically different. So using Hisoka as an example here, if I just press the special move button by itself, I will do a lariat. If I do forward in special move, I'll throw a projectile. Back in special move, I get my bungee gum attack. Down in special button, I get anti-air fireball. So every direction, forward, back, down, and neutral will do something different, as well as pressing the special move button in the air. The air gives me an air lariat. So as you can see, even though there are no special move inputs, you still have a lot of moves to work with. And again, even though the input is the same for every single character, the action that you get and the number of actions is different per character, so be sure to check those out on the characters that you're interested in. The move list, side note, in this game is actually pretty good. There's a lot of good information here, no frame data, but it does a pretty decent job of explaining what the moves do and how they should be utilized. Next, it's time to finally start talking about some of the gauges at the bottom of the screen, starting with the super meter, the bar with the big number next to it. That is your super gauge, and you need that to activate supers. Supers in this game are extremely, extremely important. They're used for many, many things. They're used for big damage, of course. They're used for tagging in. They're used for tagging out. They're used for offense. They're used for just about anything, so it's very important to get yourself familiarized with how to do them. In order to do a basic super, you're going to want to press the special move button and the Nen button at the same time. If you do, you will do your basic level 1 super. It should be noted that to build up meter, all you have to do is make contact with the opponent in some way. Every time you hit them or they hit you, you start to build up meter. You do build up meter very, very fast in this game, so just keep an eye on it and be sure to use it when the time is right. When it comes to doing a different level super, if you have a level 2, usually it is down plus in plus special move button, and then level 3 is usually forward plus in plus special move button. And in most cases, a level 3 does really big damage, knocks the opponent down, and is invincible on startup. Okay, now that we've talked about the basic attack options in this game, let's go ahead and talk about defensive options now. Your main defensive option being one we hinted at earlier, that being the N button. When you hold the N button, you will enter Nen Stance. This is what you use to defend yourself against most offensive options in the game. Being as this is a tag fighter, of course, offense is going to get pretty crazy and pretty heavy most of the time, because you're not going to be blocking just one character, you're going to be blocking multiple characters from multiple different directions, angles, all that stuff, and it can get pretty hard. That is where Nen Stance comes in. If you look at Gon's meter right under him right there, you can see that just by being in Nen Stance, it steadily depletes your Nen gauge. This is because it really is that strong of a defensive option. When you hold the Nen button down, rather than someone being right on top of you when they do a string, if you're holding it and the opponent attacks into it, you get pushed back. And that's actually not all. Besides pushing the opponent away from you, Nen Stance also auto blocks mix-ups for you. So if you don't know if the opponent is going to do an overhead or a low attack, Nen Stance actually blocks both of them at the same time. So if you get used to where your opponent likes to try to mix, or if you feel like a mix-up is coming, Nen Stance is a great way to save yourself from something that might be nearly unblockable. Now, that's not to say that it's not without its risks. The biggest risk is that it actually does cost you health. So if you're in Nen Stance and someone does like a heavy attack, the game treats this like you got hit by it. So if you look at Gon's health up there, he lost the health that he would have lost if I hit him with this heavy at the cost of pushing me away. So the good thing is that this is recoverable life. It's not permanent. So Gon is able to get this health back. We'll talk about how to get your health back here in a little bit, but just keep in mind that if your health is low, or if your opponent is in the middle of a certain kind of attack, like a big super or things like that, you need to be very careful with just throwing out an Nen Stance, because you can end up KOing yourself if you're not too careful. Okay, so now that we know how to defend ourselves, let's go ahead and talk about how to break defenses. So we already showed that Nen Stance can stop pretty much all forms of attack and push you away. So how do you stop that? Of course, as you might predict, with a throw. Now, this is probably one of the most bizarre areas of this entire game, is how the throw system works. It is very weird. Even if you played a lot of fighting games, this is one of the weirdest aspects of this whole game. So in order to throw, you got to be near the opponent and press forward and heavy at the same time. When you do that, the game will initiate what it calls a piercing attack. And now piercing attacks beat Nen Stance because technically this is the game's throw. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's not that weird. That's most other fighting games. Right. But a piercing attack is also activated by dashing. So if you're near the opponent and you hit forward, you will activate a pierce. So this is something that's going to take you a little bit of time to getting used to, because if you've played versus games before, everybody knows that dashing in your opponent's face is a good way of trying to get them to hit a button or to just, you know, prompt some sort of response. In this game, you need a bit of space if you're going to do that, because if you're too close, your dash is going to turn into a throw. You can also throw opponents out of the air with the exact same way, either with an air dash or a forward heavy. When it comes to air throws, I would say these are much more like what you would expect. They work very similar to Guilty Gear and Marvel vs. Capcom, where air throws in this game function as sort of an anti-air. If someone is jumping at you or even jumping and attacking, 9 times out of 10, an air throw is just going to eat through their attack. So keep that in mind if you're trying to stop opponents who are constantly jumping at you. Okay, next up is a fun one. Let's go ahead and talk about how to actually structure your offense and combos. So again, like many anime games, this game uses a chain system, meaning that you are able to chain one button into another. So if I were to press light, then medium, then heavy, I can chain those all together into one clean sequence, that either being a clean block string that I can apply pressure to my opponent with, or even a simple combo if I get the hit. When it comes to these chains, this game has a pretty decent amount of freedom. You are free to kind of exhaust each option. For example, I can do stand light, then crouch light, then stand medium, then crouch medium. You can basically chain all of your buttons together as long as you're doing from a lower strength to a higher strength, meaning I can press light into heavy, but I can't press heavy into light. Now, again, it's time to talk about the N button. I told you this button does a lot. So when it comes to strings and combos, the role of the N button actually changes. So again, we've seen this a couple of times now. If I hold the N button, I go into Nen Stance. That's for defense. Like we've covered that, we know that. But if I'm hitting the opponent with a string, that's my light, medium, heavy. What happens if I press N right there? My N actually turns into an attack button. Now again, as I've said many times, what the N button actually does during your string/combo is going to vary from character to character. For Hisoka, it staggers the opponent. A stagger in this game basically leaves the opponent standing so that you can start hitting them again. It's basically a combo extender. You also have down in the Nen button, and pretty universally, that is a launcher. So if you connect any of your buttons and press down and Nen, with most of the cast, it's going to launch them in the air. And once they are launched, you can always press up to chase them into the air. So a very basic combo that works with 90% of the cast would be to just do crouching light, medium, heavy, Nen in order to launch them like this. And then once they're launched, you're going to want to press up to chase them. And from there, you can do another basic sequence. You can just do LMH. And as you can see, everything is set up for you to just be able to follow them in the air and combo them back down to the ground. Now keep in mind, of course, that is just the very, very bare bone basics of how to string buttons together. Characters' combo structures are pretty dynamic in this game. I don't really want to bloat the guide by breaking down individual characters' combos, but just keep in mind that every character's combo routing is very different, and it gets pretty complicated when you start working in, you know, calling assists, which we're going to cover here in a bit, and doing their special moves and stuff like that. The combos in this game are very, very fun. Like, they're long, they're flashy, there's a lot of loops, and again, they're very, very different for each character. And I would say, like, sitting in the lab and like learning combos and learning how to optimize combos is one of the most fun aspects of this game. If you're brand new to fighting games and you're unsure of what to do for combos, or you're not sure where to find them, I would recommend, I'll leave a link in the description. If you go to the hashtag on Twitter, there are a bunch of combos and setups for every character. I'll leave a link in the description so you can take a look at it after you finish the video. But if you don't want to leave the game and you want some ideas, or you're kind of intimidated by the idea of learning like big intricate combos, this game does have what they call the rush button. So if you hold the rush button, you can press light, medium, or heavy, or should I say you can tap light, medium, or heavy, and the game will do a combo for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate here. I'm gonna hold rush, and I'm gonna tap light with Hisoka. So that was just me just mashing the light button while holding rush, and as you can see, he did a very, very basic combo and finished it with a super. Now, of course, this is not at all optimal, and you really shouldn't use these unless you absolutely have to. You should definitely learn some actual combos, but when you're first starting out, these will definitely get you out of the way. We can also go ahead and take a look at the medium version. I'm gonna go ahead and mash medium now. And then lastly, let's go ahead and look at the H rush combo. Again, very basic, but pretty good damage. And again, it should give you some ideas of what kind of combos you should look for and give you some hints at how a character's combo structure should work. Okay, it's finally time to start talking about one of the most important aspects of any tag fighter, and that is, of course, the assists. The assist system in this game is very deep and very robust. There is a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and start it at the beginning of just talking about basic assist calls. So as you may expect, when the match starts, you have access to 2 assists, assist 1 and assist 2. You look under Hisoka's health bar right there. I've got Razor as assist 1 and Morel as assist 2. So starting with Razor here, if I just press the assist button, he comes in and does his low volleyball fist attack. And once he does that, the assist is going to go on cooldown. Pretty standard stuff. Now, what's interesting here, though, is that's not my only assist with Razor. That is my neutral assist. That's what happens if I press the assist button with no other directions. However, if I hold back and call Razor, he comes in with his anti-air projectile. And if I hold down and call Razor, he comes in with an armored uppercut. So as you can see right off the bat, each character brings a lot of different utility here just by the fact that they have 3 assists built into 1. This gives you a lot of options throughout the match. Just taking Razor into account, if I need to get somebody off of me, I've got my down assist. If I want to stop somebody from approaching me, I have my anti-air. And if I'm on the offensive and I want to try to mix them up or lock them down, I have my lunging low. Whatever I need, he basically covers for me, and I just have those options at any part of the match as long as I can react. You just have a lot of options at your disposal for both your neutral, your offense, and even your combos. Now, like with most tag fighters, you can't just call your assists whenever you want. They are, of course, going to go on cooldown. So when I call Razor here, he's going to go on cooldown for a couple of seconds. And once the portrait flashes again, I can call him once again. Pretty basic stuff. Now, the thing that you should note is that you cannot call both assists at the same time. So I'm gonna call Razor, and you can see that I'm pressing assist 2 and Morel is not coming out. You cannot have both assists on the screen. You have to wait for the first assist to leave, and then you can call the second one. So when you're structuring your offense and your combos, keep that in mind that there is a bit of a cooldown. Even if your assist leaves the screen, there's about a split second where you still cannot call your second assist until that small delay window closes. And something very important I want to note about calling assists, you can call assists during most actions, like when you're doing a combo or a block string, but you cannot call them during a special move. So as you can see here, I'm doing Hisoka's Lariat and I'm pressing my Razor assist, but it's not coming out. That's because during a special move, you are locked out of assist calls. So if I wanted to do my Hisoka Lariat and the Razor low attack at the same time, I would have to call Razor a split second before I activate my Lariat. So again, that's just something that you're gonna have to keep in mind. When you first get on this game, it takes a little bit of time and practice to not only get the assist that you want, since it is direction based while you're doing combos and while you're moving around the screen, you may accidentally get the back assist when you want the neutral assist, or you may accidentally press the special move button and be wondering where your assist is. These are the kind of things that you should definitely practice when you get on the game, because it does take a bit of getting used to, just again, because the assist system in this game is so robust. Okay, now that we know how to call assists, how do we actually tag? Tagging, of course, being another huge factor in versus games. In this game, tagging is, again, pretty complex, but also kind of simple at the same time. So to do the most basic tag, all you need to do is double tap the assist button. Anytime you press the assist button and then press it again as the character's coming in, you will become that character. So as you can see, tagging is pretty snappy, pretty fast, and there's basically no delay. There's another thing: when you first get on the game, you might start doing this by accident. If you're like me and you like to double tap your attacks just to make sure they come out, you might end up interrupting your assist and turning it into a tag. That's another thing I would say practice, you know, when you first get the game before you go online, is just getting your assists out, because it's definitely going to happen to you in the very beginning where you want to do an assist, but you end up double tapping the button and becoming that character. So yeah, it's very snappy and very easy to tag, but sometimes, if I'm being honest, it might be a little too easy. Now, that's only in terms of doing a very basic tag. This game has what's called an active tag system. So as I just demonstrated, you can tag at any point that you want. So let's have Razor do his volleyball fist here. And while he's doing that, I can tag at literally any moment I want. So you see right there, I basically faked it out. So if I were closer to Gon, normally this assist passes behind them and then attacks low. If I wanted to, I could create sort of an optical illusion where it looks like Razor is going to cross up and attack them, but before the attack comes out, I actually become Razor, and now I'm attacking him on the other side. And yes, the opponent actually has to switch their block to block this. So as you can see, active tagging is very, very powerful and has a lot of applications, because that's me cutting off the animation. Let's say he actually blocks the Razor low, I can cut off that block stun, and now you can't see the frame data, but you just have to take my word for it here. I'm actually insanely plus here, and now I'm in front of them plus as Razor. So again, just the fact that this is an active tag game, this gives you a ton of options on how you want to apply your pressure and even your combos and hit confirms. Okay, so that does it for the normal meterless tags, but what about tagging with supers? No tag game is complete without a DHC. Go ahead and talk about how to do those. Anytime you activate a super, whether it is just neutrally on hit or in a combo, in this game, just like with most games, it's very simple. In the middle of your super, all you need to do is press the N button and the assist of your choice. So here we're going to go ahead and super with Hisoka and then DHC into Razor. Pretty simple, pretty simple. Now, what's not so simple though is, again, I said this a bunch of times, but these vary character by character, and here more than anywhere else, you have to really make sure you do your homework, because not all DHCs are created equally. What I just showed you was an example of a good DHC synergy. Hisoka and Razor both have ranged supers, so they work really well together. Morel, however, he has a close range melee DHC. So if you are a character whose DHC is a super and sends them far away, he's just flat out not going to be able to DHC off of this, which can ruin your combo and stop you from getting a kill. This is another place where you're going to have to do your homework, like I said, and know how your team works. If you were doing a combo with Hisoka, you would want to DHC early. That way, Morel's super actually hits rather than you knocking them too far away for him to connect. Now, it's very important to remember that in a game like this, that supers are not just for damage. They are also for creating openings and for tagging. If you're more used to a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, you might only be used to doing supers strictly to kill the opponent, but again here, that's not the case. A good example is actually Hisoka himself. Let's say that I've got Morel here, my health is really low and I need to get out. It would not be a bad idea to pop my super, and then once they're blocking it, do my Hisoka super, because Hisoka super pushes them away and is virtually safe. So the fact that I have access to a safe super behind me means that I have a lot of options for getting my other characters out safely. And again, because the tag system in this game is so robust, let's say it goes the other way. Let's say that I am Hisoka and I want to get Morel in safely. Well, that's also easy. I can call the Morel assist, then do my super, then active tag, and now I'm Morel. I'm in safely, and if the situation allows for it, I might even get a mix-up out of that. And to close out the tagging section, we've talked about regular tags, talked about DHC. Now let's talk about the last kind of tag, and that is the super tag. Now, not to be confused with doing a DHC. A DHC is doing one super into the other. A super tag just immediately switches you to whatever character you want and do their super at the same time. This is done by pressing the Nen button and the assist that you want. So again, let's say that I just want to get Hisoka out. I'm in a little bit of trouble. My health is low. I need to get him out of here. I would press Nen plus Razor and yeah, just like that, Razor comes in immediately. His super is relatively safe. Now I got Hisoka out and I'm good to go. Razor can take it from here. When it comes to tagging, as you've just seen, you have a ton of options between the meterless and the meter, DHC, super tag. It might seem a little overwhelming at first. It is a lot. I would say this is probably the area where this game has the most depth. It's just in the tag because there's just so much you can do. But just take it one step at a time. Try to remember what each tag is useful for. Regular tag is just good in most situations. DHC is usually going to be for damage or for setups. And then super tag is probably for an emergency. Try to think about it like that, and you should be able to get a better handle on which tag in what situation. Okay, we're down to the final basic mechanic, and that is the Overgear. This is this game's universal comeback mechanic. If you just look at the bottom of the screen next to the super bar, you'll see the words Overgear. Obviously, this dictates the Overgear gauge. So the way this works is as you take damage, you build up what is called Overgear. Overgear has 3 different levels. If you've played either Marvel vs. Capcom or Dragon Ball FighterZ, this should sound very familiar. It's the same thing. Same idea, I should say, as level 1, 2, and 3 X Factor and level 1, 2, and 3 Spark. This is basically designed to be this game's comeback mechanic. Now, what's really useful about Overgear is that it is inherently an animation cancel. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, a super, a button, whatever. If you feel like you're in trouble, you can Overgear and just immediately block or stop whatever you are doing. So that's really strong use case number 1. Strong use case number 2 is that Overgear actually launches on hit. So if you're in the middle of a super like we just showed, you can even let the super go through and then Overgear and do another super. So it's not only good for defense, but offense as well. Of course, since it is a comeback mechanic, it does extra damage. A simple example here, my 5H, if you look at the damage at the bottom of the screen there, you see the damage on the top row at the bottom. In level 1 Overgear, 120. So you can see a little bit of extra damage. Tack that on top of you doing combos and stuff, damage adds up quick. That, of course, is only at level 1. It does even more damage at level 2, And then at level 3, it basically just does deletion. Level 3 Overgear in this game is extremely reminiscent of level 3 X Factor back in Marvel. LMH Super, you're probably out of here. It is an insanely powerful comeback mechanic. So just when you use it is going to be up to you and what you want to get out of it. Now, besides giving you extra damage, it also gives you extra speed, you move faster, and you may notice this effect on my dash. When you're in Overgear, your dash becomes an attack, so it actually hurts the opponent and can extend your combos. And if all that wasn't enough, you also get any available health back while you're in Overgear. So if you've racked up a lot of temporary health from doing Nen Stance, it might be a good idea to pop your Overgear just to get that health back if you're not able to tag or you just don't want to risk it. And lastly, a big benefit of Overgear is you do not take chip damage while you're blocking. And this is huge because if you don't know, chip damage in this game is insane. Some attacks do insane amounts of chip. If your health is low and you have health that can be recovered, keep Overgear in mind because it bringing your health back and stopping you from taking chip is literally a lifesaver. Okay, so that does it for all of the basic options of the game. Now it's time to move on to advanced options. These are options that are going to be even more helpful to you during matches, but each of these options are going to require a bit more practice and patience to utilize properly. But once you get them down, it is really going to be a huge benefit to you. Let's go ahead and start with advanced movement, starting with your different kinds of dashes. So we said before that there are a lot of different ways to dash, such as doing forward or L+M. Now there's even more ways than just that. Normally when you do a dash, it has this sort of lag at the end where you can't really move for a while, but you can alleviate that by canceling your dash into something. You can cancel your dash into buttons to give them the momentum of a dash and extend your range. Because you see my heavy from back here can't reach, but my dash heavy has a pretty insane amount of reach because you can cancel your dash into anything. Now the fact that you can cancel your dash into anything is very beneficial because that means you can just interrupt the animation by pressing down. This is known as wave dashing, and if you do it right, you can just basically delete the recovery and lag from a dash and just keep moving forward. You can see right there I moved forward so fast that I ended up throwing them. This can take a little bit of practice so that you're not accidentally jabbing or low kicking while you're doing it, but once you get the rhythm down, it's really not that difficult. Now, an even faster way of dashing is what's known as plink dashing. This one's a little bit more advanced and takes a bit of practice, so don't get discouraged if you can't do it right away. I would practice wave dashing first and then work your way up to plink dashing. But to put it simply, a plink dash utilizes the fact that you can cancel your animations during a dash. So if you want a plink dash, what you want to do first is initiate a normal dash. Do your L and M dash, and then in the middle of it, you're going to want to do a sliding motion with either your finger or your thumb across L and M. So what this does is it basically gives you two inputs in one. The reason you're sliding is because you want to dash, cancel that dash into an L, but then cancel that L into another dash. If you do that all correctly, it should look like this. See how quick that was? It looks like I canceled a dash into a dash. Because with a plink dash, there's literally no delay. You just go forward like really quickly. You know that you did it right if you look at the inputs there. See how you see my LM, an L, and then an LM? That's because I slid my thumb at the right speed to actually get the L and the M to act as two separate but simultaneous inputs. This probably sounds very complicated and it looks very complicated, but it's just a rhythm. All it is, the act of plinking is literally just sliding your finger from one button to another. It's just about getting the rhythm down. But again, if you're having trouble getting this down, don't worry about it. You can stick to wave dashing for the time being till you practice it. It's one of those things where it's better to be able to do it, but if you can't, don't get discouraged. Wave dashing is still really good, and with enough time and practice, you should be able to get this down without too much trouble. All right, next up, let's go ahead and talk about advanced defensive options. Again, this game is insanely offensive, and there's a lot of crazy things that you need to be able to defend yourself against. So let's break down some of the core, more advanced defensive techniques that you're gonna need to master in order to survive some of those crazy offensive situations out there. So we already talked about the basics of the Nen Stance. Just by holding the Nen Stance, you can block high and low at the same time and push your opponent away. However, that's not the only thing you can do. If while you are in Nen Stance, if you press the button again, you will do an aura counter. This is an armor move that can eat through any attack that's not a low. So jumping attacks, overheads, and mids will all get absorbed by this and just hit the opponent out of whatever animation they're going for. The best time to use this is when you have a read on when the opponent is going to do a certain attack. Like let's say they keep rushing in on you and doing a very linear attack. That's a good time to double tap the Nen button and go for your armor move, because you will eat right through it and counter hit them. Another good time to use this is as a whiff punisher. If you push the opponent away and they continue pressing buttons and swinging, often you'll be able to whiff punish them with the armor move. And lastly, this is a really important one. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of guard break attacks in this game. And if you block a guard break, it can lead to a situation where you literally just die. There are a lot of post guard break setups in this game too. So your aura counter is the only way in most instances to save yourself from a guard break attack. If you use down Nen, it does work as a pretty reliable universal anti-air. So as you can see, the Nen counterattack has a lot of good applications. Again, you just need the right read to utilize it properly. But again, also just be careful that it does lose to low attack, so don't just throw it out mindlessly. And always remember that when you aura guard, you still do lose some health, so keep an eye on your health and just be smart with it, because if you use it properly, you can punish an over-anxious opponent, but if you throw it out too wildly, you're the one who's going to end up getting punished. Moving on to the next advanced defensive technique, let's go ahead and cover guard canceling. This one is a little tricky, definitely takes some practice, but is super useful. Guard canceling is another way of quickly tagging into a assist character and potentially saving your point character from a sticky situation. So if you're in the middle of a block string and you really need to get your point character out, all you need to do is press forward and the assist of your choice, but you have to time it with the opponent's attacks. You can't just mash it out. You have to do it when the attack hits your block, and if you do it properly, it should look like this. So as you can see, when you do it right, you very quickly and very instantly tag into your reserve character, and your point character gets to get out of there and start regenerating health. Now, it's important to note that you can only guard cancel when that assist is available. So if you call that assist as an attack, and then you end up in a block string, you are not going to be able to guard cancel. So that is a resource that you have to properly balance. Make sure you keep that in mind. Now, besides just getting your point character out of a dangerous situation, another huge benefit of guard canceling is that it can actually leave your opponent punishable in situations where they would normally be safe. Let's take a look at an example here. So I'm going to have Gon do his Junkin rock on me. As you can see, it puts me in a ton of block stun, and I cannot move for a while, and I'm pushed very far away, so there's pretty much no chance of me punishing him. However, what happens if I time a guard cancel properly? So as you can see, it's very important and very worthwhile to learn how and when to guard cancel. All you need is 1 bar of meter and an available assist, and you can definitely turn the tide on an opponent. There are a lot of moves in this game that are strong but kind of hard or tricky to punish, and that's where guard cancel comes in. A good guard cancel could be the difference between just sitting there holding a safe attack or getting a big damage punish. Continuing on with advanced tactics, let's go ahead and talk about snapping. Snapping is a key part of any tag fighter, but in this game, it is incredibly strong and incredibly dangerous. Let's go ahead and break it down real quick. So a snap, if you're not familiar, is the act of knocking the point character out and forcing one of the assist characters to come in. The biggest benefit of this in this game is that you get a very powerful mix-up and you stop the opponent from being able to call assists for just a little bit of time. But most importantly, if a character is in the back healing and you want to stop them from healing, that's when you would snap and force that low health character to come out and potentially finish them off for good. Now, how do you snap? In order to snap, you have to press forward and the assist that you want to snap during a super. It should look like this. As you can see, during my card super, I just pressed forward and the assist button and I snapped in Killua. Now what's important is when I snapped in Killua, he just came in immediately. So he came in, and you also see that both assists went on cooldown. So he has to come in. He's not allowed to call assists, but I can call mine. So to get the most benefit out of this, whenever you're near a wall and you feel like going for a snap, you're going to want to activate the snap and then call your best lockdown assist in order to mix up the incoming character. As you can see, if you're able to get this setup down, and depending on what assist you have available, you can get some pretty crazy, pretty nasty mix-up situations going, some really strong pressure situations going, and the opponent just has to deal with it because they do not have access to assists, and they cannot stop themselves from just coming directly into a mix-up. So snapping is something that you definitely want to get down because it is by far the most powerful mix-up situation in this entire game. And moving on to the final advanced technique that we're going to talk about here, and that is going to be utilizing the quick gear bar. Quick gear is the last system mechanic that we haven't talked about yet, and that is simply because, in my opinion, it is the most advanced system mechanic. It has a whole bunch of applications, but now that we've talked about everything else, it should be pretty easy to understand, and it should be pretty easy to see why it's so powerful. Let's go ahead and break it down. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you should notice that I have removed my controller icon, and that's because it was actually kind of blocking the quick gear bar. So the quick gear bar is the box directly next to Overgear. You see that empty box there? So you can see when the match starts, I have no Overgear, I have no quick gear, but as soon as I take some damage, boom, my quick gear now has a 1 in it. That means I am at level 1. So your quick gear and your Overgear kind of work in tandem. They work together and they go up in level together. So the more damage you take, the more the quick gear bar fills up, and that number shows you what level you're at. The level, again, decides how much damage you do, and the amount of bar inside the box decides how long your quick gear lasts. So besides the damage increase and stuff like that that we already covered with Overgear, What's the biggest benefit to quick gear? Well, the simple answer is it works as your primary way to cancel. So if you've played DBFZ or Guilty Gear or games like that, this would be similar to a vanish or a Roman cancel. Because if you're doing any sort of animation, you can cancel it into quick gear immediately. So you can see by pressing light and N at the same time, I activate quick gear and my bar starts to deplete. While I'm glowing, I am still in a buff state till the glow wears off, but the main focus is just the cancel. So you can cancel just about anything, any of your special moves, stuff like that. And it's very handy because let's say that I want to poke here with my lariat, but my lariat is very unsafe on block. So if I do it and it gets blocked, you know, I can eat a lot of damage. That's where quick gear comes in. I can do it, boom, I'm safe. So if Gon were to block this, then I can go quick gear, boom, it's my turn. I'm gonna do pressure, and if it connects, quick gear, boom, I'm doing a powered up combo and I'm doing mad damage. So it's pretty easy to see how big the benefits of quick gear are. Just like with everything else we talked about, different characters are going to utilize this different ways. I'll give you a really good example here. Morel, he highly benefits from this because his 5H is an armor move. And if, as you can see, it is a gigantic armor move. The only thing that's kind of sucks about it is that it's unsafe on block, and on hit, you can't do anything. As you can see, I can't cancel it into a launcher. I can't cancel it into a special move. It's seemingly just a dead end. So even though this move is huge and it has armor, so it'll eat through attacks, it's a great poke, but it seems like I can't do anything with it. That's where quick gear comes in. If I do this and then quick gear, so yeah, as you can see, quick gear is very beneficial to learn. It is a great way to extend your pressure safely. It's a great way to get some mix-up situations going. It's just all around amazing. It's really important that during the match you should always keep an eye on when you have it available, because unlike Overgear, which you can only use once per game, you can use quick gear every single time you take damage. So if you quick gear and then you happen to take damage again right after that, you can quick gear again. So every time it's up, you should be thinking about how to restructure your offense to turn that quick gear into an advantage, because moves gain a lot more utility when you can just suddenly and rapidly cancel them into pressure or even into a kill combo. And don't forget that when you use Nen Stance to get the opponent off of you, this counts as taking damage. So yes, this does fill your quick gear gauge. So whenever your quick gear gauge is empty, Nen Stance is a great way to pretty safely fill it. And then once it's filled, again, you have the opportunity of turning a move that is normally punishable into a potential mix-up situation. Okay, so earlier we talked about the basics of utilizing your assists and how deep the active tag system is. Now that we're in the advanced section of the guide, I wanted to give a more in-depth look at just how deep those options run and give you some better examples of how to properly utilize your assists and active tag together to create some pretty spicy situations. So for this example, we've switched to Razor because I feel like it's very easy to show off just how crazy things can get when you properly utilize your assists, your special moves, and active tag all at the same time. So in any tag fighter, the main thing that you want your assists to do is to help you with your lockdown, your neutral, and your combos. Most times your assist can do all three of these things at the same time, and that is with a technique known as layering. That's when you layer one of your pokes or your special moves with an assist call. So for this example, let's take a look at Razor's Fireball. So Razor's forward special move is this 3-part fireball. He throws it forward, and then his clones will ricochet it in different directions. So hypothetically, you want to hit the sweet spot where they are forced to block all 3 projectiles. But in the middle of a match, that's going to be very hard to do, because you can see if I'm kind of close, he only blocks 2 of them. If I'm a little bit far away, he only blocked 1 of them. So it's very hard to get him to block all 3, which is what we want him to do. We want him to be locked down by the whole animation. This is where your assists come in. If I pair Razor's Fireball with Hisoka's Lariat assist, it creates a jailing situation where the opponent is forced to block everything. Pretty good, right? Obviously much, much better than just throwing that fireball by itself. That's the strength of an assist. Normally, that would be where it ends. But due to the depth of this game's mechanics and the fact that it is an active tag game, it doesn't have to end there. Because of the fact that I can become Hisoka at any time, I can use that to my advantage to tag out, and then suddenly the situation becomes this. So as you can see, I'm Hisoka, and I just stood there. I didn't even do anything. I'm Hisoka during most of that animation where he's still blocking the other 2 parts of the fireball. So obviously I can apply a lot of pressure in that situation. But still, that's not all. Because of the fact that after I throw the fireball, I'm still free to move as Razor, I can add a whole other layer on top of that. So this time I threw the fireball while calling Hisoka, but before I tagged, I did a summon, and because Hisoka's still on the screen, I'm able to call the summon, become Hisoka. With all that put together, I'm right in front of Gon, and I have an assist behind me. So I can do so many different types of pressure here. I can threaten a throw, I can just apply pressure. There's a lot of stuff I can do on top of the fact that I have an entire minion behind me. There's just really not a limit to the amount of creativity you can come up with, and that's just on block. If that same situation happens, and this is why we call it layering, because what happens if my fireball actually hits him? And again, these are just a few simple examples. The main idea here of this section is to just kind of remind you that this is not an ordinary tag game. You need to think of your assists as extensions of your character, because if you call an assist and they get a hit, you can become that character off of that hit. Just because I'm way back here with Razor, when Morel gets this uppercut, I shouldn't think of it as, oh man, he's way too far away for me to run up and get a combo. No, I am Morel too. So because Morel got this hit, I can get the combo easily. When you're putting your team together, you want to look at your character's special moves and ask yourself, if I do this, what is the best way to turn that into either a block string or a combo? And when you're trying to pair characters together, if you have a good answer to that question, then they make a good team. And with that, we have reached the end of this guide. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hopefully by now you feel like you have a really solid understanding of how all the mechanics work and how this game is meant to be played, and you have the confidence to go online and start popping, fellas. If you did find this helpful, again, I would really appreciate a like. Again, it does really help out the channel a lot. I'm going to be making a lot more content for this game in the future, so if you're a fan of it, feel free to hit the subscribe button, because there's going to be a lot more Hunter x Hunter coming. The next video I plan to make for this game will be it'll either be team building or choose your main. I'll probably go with team building. I'm not sure, one of the two, but basically my next guide will be on the actual characters themselves. I didn't want to bog this guide down with stuff like that, with like, you know, individual character combos and stuff. That'll be in the next guide, but this guide was just all about how to actually play the game, and hopefully if you made it this far, you do feel like you actually understand how this game works and what you're supposed to be doing out there on those online streets. But with that, that's going to do it for me on this end. Feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the guide. Let me know if you have any questions. I do always read my comment section, so if you feel like there's something that you still don't understand or you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. You can also get your questions answered live over on my Twitch. I'm live most nights around 8 p.m. Central Time over on twitch.tv/Mr. Acolyte. So you can head on over there and join us on the Twitch side of things. The Twitch gang is very chill. We answer a lot of questions over there and we help people improve. So feel free to come hang out with us, where we play a lot of fighting games. We're going to be playing a lot of Hunter x Hunter, a lot of variety too. So come check that out if you get a chance. But with all that being said, you guys have a good one. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.